Good evening. I'm Willem Dafoe. Good. We're gonna have a little Q&A. So let me call down Koshi Yakusho, the star of the movie, and Wim Wenders, the director. And David, I don't know your last name, but David will be translating.
Thank you.
Okay. What's that?
Konbawa, yes, to all of you.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me just get you going. I suppose the first thing is, how did this start? I mean, I read that you were proposed a project of making 4 short films. And that's not what this is.
No, it is actually the opposite. I got this beautiful Christmas letter because it actually arrived on Christmas in Berlin. And I just complained to my wife how long we hadn't been in Tokyo and how homesick I was. And there it was, a letter with an invitation to come to Tokyo. And I was very eager to open it, and it was an invitation. It was a little bit of a downer at first to look at toilets. I was about to discard it. But then, of course, I kept reading on, and then I saw pictures, and I understood the project, and I understood that it was not just toilets, it was 15 great architects. And I knew some of them. Tadao Ando is a good friend of mine. And they usually build banks and high-rises and museums and fancy stuff, and now they all build the tiniest unit. I don't know why they call them director's chairs.
I always feel like a child because your feet don't reach, you know, it kind of...
Yeah, we directors try to impress. So these toilets were really little pieces of art, and so I accepted the invitation, especially as it was, I didn't commit. They wanted me to see, and if I was inspired, I could do something. And I saw these toilets, and they did inspire me, but not to make 4 short documentaries on the architects and their creations, but on something bigger. I realized there was something there, and I could do something in Tokyo at that moment. It felt so good to be back, and I realized how much I love Tokyo, and I realized also why, because the week when I came there in May last year, when was it? No, 22. Oh, last year was 23, yeah. I don't have that on yet. So when I came in May, it was just after they came back from the longest lockdown in history of any city. They'd been locked away for 2 years almost. And the way they came back was so moving, because I had seen people come back in my own hometown and ruin the city right away. I mean, yeah, lockdown was terrible, because when at the end of it, it seemed the only victim was a sense of common good, and people in my city ruined the parks. And in Tokyo, it was so beautiful that the streets and the parks and toilets, they did have parties and barbecues, but it was clean afterwards. And they really respected the common good. And I remembered everything I liked about Japan, and I told these people, and I thought maybe I'd talk myself out of a good job. I can't do these documentaries on the toilets and the architects. But you give me 4 times 4 days for those, if I take those 16 days and make a movie, what do you think? Of course, we'd have to completely forget what we wanted to do, but we could do something nicer and bigger, and even these toilets could shine more in a story, because places are lost without stories. And I mean, nobody wants to see 4 documents about toilets. Even the most beautiful ones. Let's face it, if I would want to show anybody why I love San Francisco so much, I would just show them Vertigo or not any documentary. Because that is a great document. And if I had made my initial plan, Wings of Desire, was to make a film about the city, if I hadn't invented those angels, nobody would want to see that movie anymore. Stories really carry a place, and I promise these producers the toilets will appear and it will be good for them. Believe me, they'll shine. We just need a script and a great actor, and this is where this man comes in.
Eh, こんばんは。この映画に出てきた以外にも東京の渋谷に17個のこの美しいトイレがあります。ぜひ皆さん東京の渋谷にいらっしゃった時は、気持ちよく皆さんが用を足せるように、トイレのプロジェクトのスタッフたちが一生懸命掃除をしています。ぜひ立ち寄ってみてください。
So good evening. Yeah, as you saw, there are these toilets, and there's actually 17 of them in Shibuya, Tokyo. And so if you visit Tokyo, I can guarantee the staff there has cleaned them very well, and I hope that you all go and relieve yourselves there.
まあその中でも一番気をつけなければいけないのはロックをしないと、中が透けて見えるトイレがあります。そうするともう外から丸見えですので、どうぞ気をつけてください。
However, there is one precaution that you must take, which is that there is one toilet that if you don't lock it, you can see straight through the walls. So please make sure and lock that one.
こんなトイレの話ばっかりでいいんですか、監督。
Are we supposed to just keep talking about toilets? Is that
That's it. No more toilet talk.
Okay, I'll get us out of the toilet for a second.
You got us in the first place.
They're important places, let's face it. You know, as I watch it, you know, I was curious so much about how much of a script there was. Like, was it a scenario? How much, when you arrived there, was it informed by the places? Obviously, I can't imagine it's not like you're shooting this, you're getting permits and you're getting permission and all that, so you needed some organization, so you knew where you were going to be, and you probably had some sense of the actions. But the details and some of the little accidents, how much of that was written, and how much of that was found on the day?
Well, we needed a script, yes, and I had the right guy to do it in Takuma Takasaki, and he was the one who had invited me in the first place, and he loved the idea of a story instead of documentaries. And so I said, come with me back to Berlin and we have to write it, because I couldn't stay. I was still working on another movie. So we went back and we actually figured out for a few days the routine of the man we imagined. And once we had that routine, writing the script was a piece of cake. We're done in 4 weeks. Don't be offended, any screenwriters. Yeah. It can be done. And because the routine helped us so much, and it helped also with the shoot and the story, and it was the backbone. And for his character, it was also great to have a routine, because then gives you a lot of freedom as on the other hand, and structure. So we had a pretty good script with not much dialogue, which was good. After all, I would need a translator each time, but so I'd rather didn't want him to talk. And we had a handful of good locations. We knew where he was living. We knew these toilets, and the film had come out of the place to begin with. So, and I had made so many photos over the years in Tokyo, and I had so many favorite places where I'd never shot. So it all came out of also from a sense of place. And then he became Hirayama in such an incredible way. I never called him Koji Yakusha anymore. I called him Hirayama. And with my DOP and me, in the morning, we said, let's go see Hirayama. And already on the third day, when I realized I had rehearsed every scene, God damn it, and then told myself, if only I had shot that rehearsal. It was so beautiful. I mean, it was good afterwards. So I suggested to him, would you allow me to shoot the rehearsals? He was a little amazed that hadn't happened to him, and he let us try and was a little astonished that we didn't want to have another take. And we shot fast, and we had 16 days, and it helped a lot that we had interiorized his character and his sense of reduction, so we also were very reduced as a film crew, and that helped us. That helped me enormously to take out the tracks and the dolly and the crane and the steady cam and the gimbal and whatever, and just have a man and a camera, and we did basically the whole film handheld, like you do a documentary. And as he was Hirayama so completely, it felt we were making a documentary with a very fictional character. And that helped us shoot really very freely and flexibly and get a lot done. The crew had a crisis meeting on the second day because they thought this old German fart's going to shoot very slowly. And then on the second day, they were still not on the second location when we had already finished the third. So they realized we have to adjust to this speed. And because he was so much Hirayama, could work so freely and so fast.
A question for Koji, yeah. So.
How did you like it?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I won't ask that though. Just curious, Wim, he comes to you, he knows you from cinema, he's an admirer of yours. He's presenting you with the script that you say is more like a scenario, I imagine. Very little dialogue. And I imagine you knew his work? Yes? I can't imagine how you started. I won't ask you who taught you how to clean toilets, but I guess you probably did have some kind of technical advisor. My mother.
まあ、本当にセリフも少なかったので、セリフを覚えるよりも一番大事なことは、本当にこの映画を見てくれる人が非常にこう本物のトイレの清掃員をミュー・ベンダース監督がスカウトして映画を作ったっていうふうに見てもらえると嬉しいなと思って、実際の清掃員の方に2日間ほどトレーニングをさせてもらいました。まあその間に実際その掃除をしている時に、トイレを使いに来る人がいた場合はどういうふうな対処をするとか、そのトイレを用を足している人との距離感とか、 実際のトイレはどのくらい汚れてるのがあったりとか、あとはやっぱり実際こうノックをして中を開けるときにやっぱりものすごくやっぱりドキドキするらしいです。すごく汚れてる時もあるらしいので、でもなんかその清掃員の人はやっぱりこれを全部きれいにしたらきれいなトイレに入ってきた人はどんな気持ちになるんだろうというふうなことを想像しながら掃除をするんだとおっしゃってました。そういうことで何かこの平山にという人になんかちょっと近づけたような感じがしました。
Yeah, there were so few lines in this script, and I felt that if audiences around the world could go and see this film and think, oh, Wim Wenders must have found a real toilet cleaner and cast him in this film, then I would have done a good job. So that was always my intention. And so I did spend 2 days training with one of the toilet cleaners of the Tokyo Toilet Project. And while some of the things I learned were things like how do I behave if someone comes into the toilet while I'm cleaning it? What sort of distance do I maintain, or how dirty do the toilets actually get, and that sort of thing. And what I learned also is that they get actually quite nervous when they first knock on the door and open the door, because they don't know what they're going to see, and it can be quite dirty. So, but they also shared that while they clean, they think about how people are going to feel when they come in, and it's just such a clean environment. So that's what they would consider, and so that's really what I tried to bring into Hirayama as well.
Which is only half. What? Which is only half the story. He brought a lot to the table. Never worked with anybody like Koji Yakusho, except with you, Willem.
Is my ego that delicate that you needed to reassure me? I was fine. And
you might not know, but we did make a film together in which he played the most difficult part. He played a character called Time Itself. And because when we shot, we felt so embarrassed that this was his character. It was actually used backwards. Emmett Flesty.
yes, that's
Time
the only
itself.
thing I contributed, I think.
No.
Emmett Flesty, Time Itself Backwards. Not bad, huh?
No, but Koji contributed a lot of his experience and a lot of his self, because he became Hirayama in such a way that I didn't have to do much. Sometimes as a director, you know this from some actors and directors, the relationship that you can only ruin it as a director if you say too much. So, and I was so happy shooting the rehearsals with these men and being at the right moment, putting the camera at the right place, and that was almost the only responsibility I had, because everything else was right.
So it was mostly about just setting up actions and things and then seeing what came out of it and introducing other
Well,
elements.
we were pretty precise in the script, so the action was there.
Yeah.
And even, well, let's not talk about the toilets anymore. Even in there, the action was pretty well described.
Yeah, okay. And the music. Did you know that, all that music? We're about the same age. For me,
そう。
it could have been my
2曲
playlist.
ぐ
You
らい
know?
しか知らない。
I think I only knew about 2 songs actually
Oh, really?
in this playlist.
Okay.
Willem, did you know them all?
I knew. Yeah, I think there was a
Except for
Japanese
the
one.
Japanese
That one I didn't know. But pretty much, no. I mean, they were all
The
really
thing was-
familiar.
We wrote the songs into the script because we did a script with little dialogue. So we felt some of the stuff that was remained unsaid in the film, and a lot is unsaid. His whole biography is unsaid, and you had to put it together. So you, the co-authors. So, but I felt the music was going to be part of his story and was going to tell about him. So when we wrote the script, Takuma and I, the first time he gets into his car and drives to the work, I said it'd be great if we knew what song he was playing. And Takuma encouraged me to put it in, and then I got worried. I said, I can't impose my musical taste on a Japanese character. And he said, Vim, please, we listen to the same music and you in the 70s, and as Willem Dafoe in the 70s, and as everybody else. So don't hesitate. And then we DJ'd the whole script and put all the songs in we liked, and sometimes it was his choice, Takuma, and sometimes it was mine. And we almost got all the songs, not all, each and every one. And Nina Simone was not even in the script, it was the frontispiece. The first page of the script was the lyrics by Nina Simone of Feeling Good. And it was the motto of the film. For me, it was the spirit of the film and explained what it was all about, to live in the moment and to live every day from scratch and anew. And it was all in that song, but I just had it there as to remind me. And in the course of the movie, when we always had the songs on the set, the music was on the set, in the car, and it was always there. It wasn't put in afterwards. So, and the more we got to the ending, the more I realized Nina Simone was so essential, had been so essential for me. And then we decided it's the last scene. And that's the scene where he really spoke the most, I feel. He and Nina.
いや本当にすごい曲がたくさん使用されているので、さぞかしこれは使用量が高いだろうなと思ってました。だから監督は16日間で慌ててこの作品を撮影したんだろうかと、そう思いました。
I was, really impressed with this list of songs. I thought they were all really incredible songs, and I was also slightly concerned, thinking that, wow, the rights for these songs must be so expensive. Maybe this is why we're shooting in 16 days, because we used all the money there.
It occurred to me as well.
You should not have exposed the truth. It was half our budget, yes.
I got to tell a quick story because it's kind of... Paul Schrader wrote a script, and I remember when you saw it, because that was when we first met each other, wrote a script for a movie called Light Sleeper. And in the original script, he wrote all these songs in. And they really informed everything, and they really were the glue. They brought everything together. And they were all Bob Dylan songs, because he had made a video clip with Dylan and knew him. But he just went and wrote them in, and they were fantastic. And then when he went to get the rights, Bob Dylan said, "Yeah, you can use my songs, but not those." I think he was offended that he went ahead assuming that he could use them. And so
this is
be
a good
careful
lesson
when you
for
write songs into your script if they're part of the story.
We even got the Rolling Stones. Wow. So
the other thing, okay.
I'm just thinking of poor Paul Schrader, and he had to replace him.
Yeah. And he opted to have someone write ones that kind of were like the ones that he wanted.
Much cheaper.
But you pay somewhere, And, I understand the idea that you had the very clear actions and you had this character at the center, and that kind of drove it and that kind of shaped the story. But then you have these other people coming in, and obviously they're coming in probably for 2-3 days. How much do you talk to them, and how much do you let stuff happen? How much is that scripted?
That was all scripted, and we did rehearse with these people.
Damn.
Yeah, we did rehearse.
I just assumed some
No,
of this
no,
stuff
no.
just happens.
No, if we didn't shoot with him alone, we had to go conservative and rehearse. His niece, Nico, this is the first time she was in front of the camera, so she was nervous, and it was great for her to rehearse, and she loved it. And we did rehearsal. But for instance, the dialogue with the ex of Mama, that the two of them are really great actors in Japan, and they never work with each other. And when they were introduced on the set to each other, they knew of each other, and the dialogue was, they said to me, both of them, he gets all the parts that I want. And he said that of the other guy, and the other guy said it of him. So, and then we rehearsed it only once, and it was like they always worked together. And this dialogue is one of my favorite parts of this entire thing. And we shot it, of course, not in 2 days. We shot it in 2 hours. We had to be fast, and these guys are so good. And you really never work together.
石川さゆりさん、ママ？あ、初めて。
That was the first time.
My editor, when he edited that scene, was mostly crying while he edited. And he said, I've never done a dialogue like this. I don't even have to edit. I just have to cut to whoever is talking. And even that would work, he said. Of course, we didn't do it that way. I heard you had a blackout on the scene when they're stepping on each other's. Was that disturbing, or did it fit? Should we always do it from now on? I mean, I was told in front, and they were worried that I would be offended, but I thought this is the only scene where it could happen. Because, I mean, it's almost too good. It should be in the script. How long did it last? 30 seconds. So while you're stepping on each other's shadows, there was black on the screen. What? Right before it. Rainbows. Oh, it gets more interesting. It's a good idea.
Do you want to do some questions from people?
It would be so nice if you
Would it? You'd like
if
that?
you would. Yes, please. Look, this
Let's do it.
the first hand.
Go ahead.
In the Nina Simone scene, could you talk about both in terms of the script and the direction and your process in that shot?
Did you all get it? Yes. Good. In spite of the mask, he said it very loudly. Wow. This was so important. It was the last day of shooting because I knew once we said this is how the film will end, this was all important to get this right. And we did set it up as 2 shots. One from the side and one from the front. The one from the side was in traffic. We didn't have any means. We didn't have a trailer for the car. He was actually driving through Tokyo traffic. My cameraman was sitting on the seat next to him. I was cramped in the back. It was a tiny little car. And I watched him putting in the cassette and starting to listen and act with the song. And I was very taken then. And then I looked at my cameraman and I got a shock because Franz was weeping. He was sitting next to him doing the close-up, and he couldn't look through the viewfinder anymore. Tears were streaming down his face, and I just prayed that France would hold on and shoot. And I know why he was crying. This was just unbelievable. I had no idea where he would take the scene. And then we got out of the car, and I said to Franz, do we even need the other shot? And he said, well, I've set it up. It was the only shot with a green screen because the camera was right in front of his face. So we shot it on the parking lot of his little house, just in front of the old coffee machine there. We had a green screen there, and so we had set it up, and Koji also felt he wanted to do it one more time, so we did it one more time, and this time the entire crew was weeping. And I don't know, I had never seen anything like it. I'd never seen a man who could laugh and cry at the same time and show me his entire life just by listening to one song. So we were overjoyed with this scene. And
キャメラマンのフランツもスタッフも監督も本当にフィーリングッドという曲が大好きだったんで、本当にフィーリングッドニーナ・シモンの歌がすごい力が、現場に、みなぎっていました。
France, the DP and Vim and everybody, the whole staff loves, the song "Feeling Good" by Nina Simone, and having that song playing on set really sort of created this energy that was really powerful.
We want another question. Yep.
I was wondering, could you talk a little bit more about Tokyo's Sky Tree and why you chose to shoot in that location and how it becomes a prominent backdrop throughout the film?
The Sky Tree was a whole new thing when I came in May to look at Tokyo. Out of a sudden, there was this new giant tower, never seen before. And it was in the neighborhood where we wanted to have him live. It was an old-fashioned village-like neighborhood with small wooden houses. And it turned out that it was a blessing because he loves trees so much, and out of a sudden this sky tree, this modern technology is standing there, and his little house is in the shadow of the sky tree. It's really, there's an opening shot when it pans down, and you actually see the little neighborhood there, and it's shot from the sky tree there. And I loved the tower, and it was like almost, it was a strange symbol for Tokyo, and a new one for me, and it connected this modern day Tokyo so much to his love of trees, and it marked his neighborhood in such an enormous, beautiful way. I fell in love with the bloody sky tree and did too many shots of it, and my editor cut half of them out because he said to them, Wim, we have it already 20 times. You're overdoing it. So, and still, if I see the film today, I think, oh, is it still too many times? But I really liked it because it marked his place and his little neighborhood, and everything else was under the sky tree. The little photo shop, or his bathhouse was just around the corner, or all the little places in his neighborhood where he is. It's just that one neighborhood, because we couldn't lose any time driving to locations. We had to use all the time we had to shoot, so we had everything in the vicinity of this house. And it was all in the shadow of the sky tree.
Another question? Yes? Yes?
So I also do janitor work with my girlfriend, and I tied it to my family. And I was just curious, in a world where janitors are kind of looked down upon, at what point did you want to make it the main character be cornered by this life decision he made? The family kind of brought it up to him. They're kind of alluding that, like, why did you make the decision? I just want to know, like, at what point did you write that in, have that conversation with the writer, so on and so forth?
Well, I loved the idea of the caretaker of these toilets, We never called him toilet cleaner. He was the caretaker for us. And service is of a different value in Japan, in Japanese society. It's a different value to do things for others. And when I imagined him as somebody who's really doing his best in the job, I felt he was really looking at his job like a craftsperson does. And crafts as well in Japan are so revered, and craftspeople are not at a lower level of society. They are really up there. They're national heritage, some of them. So I figured he was in his soul a craftsperson, and I think he's an extremely generous man, and he loves people, but for him they're all alike. The homeless guy, for him, matters just as much, and he greets him, than the banker who comes and doesn't see him. So, but he sees everybody. And I felt a janitor was a very noble job. Can I tell one story?
Yeah,
Sorry.
you can tell a million.
It's just taking us a little bit away, but I have to tell it. It's really important for me. At the last day of shooting, when we had done the Nina Simone song, and we were done with the film, on that day I had carried the janitor's uniform, and my wife as well, in his honor. So I did the whole shoot that day in the same uniform as him. Not doing the rest of it would have been a gimmick, but on that day I wanted to, for him, be his equal. So I shot the film in the uniform, and then we finished and said goodbye to everybody, even if we had a party the next day. But at the end of the day, I realized it was my only chance to see my favorite bar in Tokyo, and I had never been there because we had worked so hard. So we went, my wife and I, to La Jetée, which is a bar you will also see in Tokyo-ga, and had a drink there. And we are still in this Tokyo toilet outfit. And in comes an American, about 65, 70 years old, and I'd never seen him. He didn't know me, I think. And he looked at me and said, "Where did you get that uniform? I want it." And I said, "I'm sorry, this is not for sale, I think." And he said, what are you doing with this uniform?" I said, "We just made a movie about a toilet cleaner." And he said, "No. Let me tell you my life." And this was very serious. I came to America came to Japan when I was 18 years old. I was running away from the Vietnam War. I didn't want to be drafted, so I went to Japan to study martial arts. And I went to this famous martial arts master and said, "Please teach me." And he said, "I will, young man, if you clean toilets for 1 year, every day of the year, in the area of Tokyo where there's a fish market. And after that, you come back to me, and then I can teach you." And he said, I did that. I came back after a year. He knew exactly that I'd been there all the time. And he said, "Now I will teach you, but when we're finished, you have to promise you will still do this toilet cleaning for 1 week for the rest of your life." And he said, "I'm still doing it. So that you wearing this toilet uniform is for me like I can't quite believe it." So toilets cleaning is a different issue in Japan than it is anywhere else. I can tell you more stories about toilet cleaners, but this would lead too far. Sorry.
Another question? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
この映画はですね、日本の映画会社が作った映画ではなくて、渋谷のその17個の、トイレを作った東京トイレットプロジェクトってあるんです。これを自分の私費で作ったプロジェクトを立ち上げた人が皆さんご存知ユニクロの、社長の会社の社長の次男の方で、彼がこのベンダス監督とその映画を作ってきたんですけども、彼が何のためにそういうプロジェクトを立ち上げたかっていうと、東京オリンピックに向けて、東京オリンピック・パラリンピックに向けて、その世界中の人たちのおもてなしをするには 日本だったらきれいなトイレでおもてなしするのはどうだというふうなプロジェクトを立ち上げられたんです。もともと日本にはあらゆるものに神様が宿っていると言って、それでトイレにももちろん神様が宿っていると子供の頃から言われて、そのトイレをきれいにするといいことがあると。それで次に使う人のために自分はトイレを汚さずに次の人に渡すという習慣があります、日本人には。そういうものを世界中のお客様に伝えたいと思うプロジェクトで、そこで働いている清掃員の人たちは非常にプロフェッショナルで誇りを持って仕事をされている方たちです。
大丈夫です。This film was not made by a Japanese production. It was the Tokyo Toilet Project itself was created by the second son of the president of Uniqlo, which I think many of you know. And so he was the one who really started this entire project. And the reason he financed these toilets and created them is because he wanted to have the spirit of hospitality of Japan presented to the world in a wonderful way in preparation for the Tokyo Olympics. And so in Japan, there's this belief that God resides in all things, and toilets are not an exception. And so there's this belief that good things will happen, good things will come if you clean a toilet. And so it's also this sort of intention to keep it really clean so that the next person who comes and uses the toilet can feel good when in that space. And so I think that intention is really reflected in the film, and is all of the professionals who work and clean the toilets have that in mind as well.
One more question. Let's go deep.
Right here.
Okay, right here.
Or afterwards.
We can go deep here too.
Yeah.
Was there a significance in each of the novels that you chose to cite? The ones that he was reading and the ones that he talks about when he goes to the bookstore? Right.
Well, I had the first choice. Second one was chosen by my co-writer, Takuma. So my first choice was Faulkner. And I figured he would read a book with a title involving a tree, so it was Wild Palms. But also because I love that book. And this is a second movie in which I feature White Palms. The other one was Kings of the Road. The guy is reading White Palms and in English and needs some help sometimes with words. But anyway, that's it. Second one was Takuma, who chose the short stories by a Japanese writer all about trees. The book is called Tree. And the third one became Patricia Highsmith, and because we both liked her, so this was a common decision by Takuma and that he would read Patricia Highsmith's letter. And it helped with the story because his niece is reading one of the stories and identifying with the story about it. A turtle. Anyway, it's a long story. 11 stories, it's called 11 Short Stories by Patricia Highsmith. And those were the 3 books. And I love the little bookstore where we shot, where he gets his new book. Well, he first finishes a book and then he goes and buys a new one. He doesn't buy 2, he only buys 1, and then when he finishes that one, he buys another one. And I love that procedure. I wish I can do it. I've got better. I get better at buying only one thing and then read it and then buy a new one. But the bookstore was fantastic, and they really had this section where every book was $1, and we wanted to have these books a little bit exposed in the film, so we created the character of the bookstore owner, and she has these beautiful one-liners about each book, and I could have continued shooting with her for the rest of my life. She was gorgeous. She was a very famous comedian in Tokyo. And her voice, everybody in Japan recognizes it when she opens her mouth, everybody knows, oh, this is her. One last question down there, as you wanted. Dee?
Go ahead.
We wrote this homeless character into the script, knowing it was an important character, and he too would not have much of a biography, but we would realize there was a biography. There is a biography behind every homeless person, and amazing stories. And I wanted a real character to play this man, and Takuma said, we could ask Min Tanaka. And I said, well, wait a minute, the Min Tanaka? Because he was a great hero for Pina Bausch. She had introduced me to him, and I had seen films of his and had seen performances of his, but I had never met him. I didn't even know it was a possibility to ask Min Tanaka to play a part in a movie. So I was almost shocked that the name came up, and then Takuma said, yes, he will come and see you. And then he lives out in the mountains, and he produces tea for the rest of his life, but he also still dances. And he came and he said he'd love to play the homeless character. And I said, it's just a small part. He said, I'd love to play a small part. And it was amazing to work with him and realize that he did have another life in him, and that this was maybe the life of a dancer. And we loved him so much, we shot so much that is not in the film, that finally at the end of the movie, as I said, we cannot have all this stuff with Min Tanaka, and nobody will ever see it. So we also produced a short film, Somebody Comes Into the Light. It's a 10-minute film about his performance in the film, and it's really, really extraordinary. And I love this man, and he taught all of us a lot of things. And he especially taught me that I should walk straight and not be bent over, and told me that I had to strengthen my leg muscles if I wanted to be a director for a few more days. He was an amazing presence, strong and beautiful and so dedicated. And he didn't mind that he was that it was a very small part. He was gentleness incorporated.
田中美さんは本当に素晴らしい人で、それでウィレム・デフォーさんと同じような美しい肉体の持ち主で、本当に日々自分でその農業をしながら肉体訓練をしてダンサーとしてずっと今世界中を飛び回っている、もう日本を代表する素晴らしいダンサーで、人格的にも素晴らしい方です。
Yeah, Min Tanaka is a really wonderful person, and he has a beautiful physique, much like Willem here. And he keeps fit. He keeps fit by doing a lot of farm work, working with the soil and that sort of thing. And he is one of the greatest dancers, I think, in Japan, and he really is a great representative of Japan in my mind.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. No. We finished this Q&A, and I just want to say one thing. There's another film afterwards, Tokyo Ga, which we shot 40 years before this one. It was a tiny little documentary we shot in Tokyo. And in 1983, two men, Ed Lachman, who some of you will know is one of the greatest living DOPs, and I was the sound engineer. Yeah, he shot Light Sleeper, exactly. He worked with Paul. Anyway, Tom and Ed Lachman and I shot Tokyo Ga 40 years ago in Tokyo on the traces of Yasujiro Ozu. And there's a man in there who has never seen the film, because I guess he didn't want to see himself, or I know the feeling. I've never seen anything that I appeared in. And so the man is sitting here, and I would like to introduce him to you, and maybe we speak for 10 seconds about Tokyo Ga, and that is Werner Herzog. So let's talk about the next movie. Why did you never see it?
Well, there's a certain threshold I never was able to step across. I don't know. I had the feeling at the time, and it was 4 decades ago. It was 4 decades ago, and I had the feeling I said some very insignificant things. I should have been much better. I never dared to see the film. By the way, I did not see your film Room 666 either, which was done 50 years ago. Maybe I have not seen it yet.
We go back.
Yes. I do not have a real problem to see myself when I'm acting, like in Jack Reacher. To play a real bad guy, that's fine, and I enjoy to see myself. So it will be the first time. Wim somehow spotted me in Tokyo. We didn't know that we were in the same city at the same time. You found out, and I do not remember much more. I think the bar that you describe, GT, existed already.
Yeah.
And I think we went there once.
Did we get drunk already?
Yeah.
Anyway, I dragged him up the Tokyo Tower, and you do play a good guy. So, and what you say, wasn't stupid at all. It really fit well.
Remains to be seen.
So Werner would see the film with you, and I'm totally jet lagged, and I'm gonna go to sleep.
Okay, Wim, best of luck to you, and
See
best
each other
of luck. I wish you will have a great time here, and let's wait for the Academy Awards.
Thanks, everybody.